feature of a successful yearly series as they kick off their 2019 season this Saturday night at Old Dominion Raceway, or Dominion Raceway, in Spotsylvania, Virginia, off of I-95, exit 118, just north of Richmond, for their season opener. And for the last decade or so, since the dormant Hooters Pro Cup Series. And I think that's one reason why I kind of got attracted on this conversation, because I'm a fan of history. I love history. I love getting information about things of the past, because the things of the past is what made the things of today present and what will come for the future. So, again, we got a couple of segments in our podcast throughout the season that'll be called The History of Motorsports. This is just segment 1. And we're going to go to the phone lines here right now, and we're going to get our first guest on the line. And we're going to chat it up with Stan Lester. Joe Schmaling will be coming up at 11:50, 10:50 Central. We encourage you to be a part of our podcast. You are more than welcome to either leave comments in the chat box for those that are saying, "Where's the video? Where's the video?" It's not video. It's audio only. It's a black screen. There's a reason for that. It's audio. Podcasts are audio. Some might be video. I know I've done some on video. And honestly, I'm not looking good today, and I just don't feel like showing my ugly mug. So, but again, I do encourage you to be a part of the podcast if you choose to. You are more than welcome to. You can actually comment in the chat box to our guests if you got comments, things you want to say, or you can call by interactive with us at 919-585-5880. 919-585-5880 is the number to call, and you can join us in the conversation. So we go to the phone lines now, any day now, and we will get our first guest on the program. Not going to take our first official timeout. A little bit behind schedule. Not by much. But we are going to go ahead and ring up the first caller. Coming up, it's just 2 guests today. Just 2 guests. I'm going to let them tell their story. This might be a true eye-opener for a lot of people that might not know these individuals. True pioneers in the world of motorsports. And you might have a newfound respect of who they are and what they do. Of course, joining us on the line right now is, of course, longtime man of motorsports, 3rd-generation member. His father was successful in racing down in Florida and Georgia and Alabama. He's done successes in his racing, from go-karts to being a promoter with the Truck Series. Of course, his grandson, Blake Lester, races go-karts as well. We go somewhere into Carnesville, Georgia, or maybe on Lake Hartwell, to the founder of Fast Track Companies International, which is, again, all of those sanctioned bodies that I mentioned. And Mr. Stan Lester. Stan, welcome to Finish Line. Good morning to you.
Good morning, buddy. Actually, I'm in between Lake Hartwell and the office.
So you're driving. So are we going to have that dreaded, possibly drop call moment?
I hope not. I'm gonna find me a place where I can stop comfortably.
Okay. I figured you'd be. I'm doing well. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to kind of break the ice here before we go any further. Again, Stan Lester is joining us, and in addition to that, I got a lot of respect for this man. Almost a decade ago, this man took a chance on me working with Fast Track Companies International, being the voice of the Fast Track Racing Series. Come back after a 7-year tenure, then came back last year and going now in my 9th season. And Stan, let's just real quickly talk about the infrastructure that is Fast Track Companies International, where it was at in 2004, keeping it going 16 successful years, and where you're at today. And you've got about 40 minutes, so you can kind of talk about the whole beginning, middle, end. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
In June of 2003, I called my son and I sat down at my farmhouse when we had the horse ranch. And I said, we got to do something about racing. I know I had friends of mine that were, and listen, I don't want anybody to take this as discrediting living in a trailer, okay?
Gotcha.
I've lived in them too, but when I see a guy sitting outside with a $50,000 race car, no garage, anything to work in, and his kids is running around without shoes on, and I came from an area that was going on, then something's wrong with that.
I would agree.
And that's not being judgmental of people. That's sincerely trying to help. Because all I was trying to do was make, and I sat down with Josh and I said, what can we do to lower the cost of racing? What are the two most expensive things in dirt late model racing? And still are. Well, shocks have gotten in there now, but tires and engines, right?
That's right.
And what had happened locally around Georgia is super late models. I mean, that was a class everybody wanted to see. But on a local basis, as engines got upwards back then of 35 to 40 grand for the best of the best of the best, then the racetracks could no longer afford to pay what the teams needed to race for, and the drivers could no longer afford to race for what the tracks could afford to pay. So, supercar counts around us locally had got down to 10 and 12, 14 maybe. On a Saturday night, you could see them dropping off pretty rapidly, and nobody was doing anything. So I called General Motors in June, and I said, I see you have this 604 crate engine. I think it would work well in a dirt late model car. At that time, it retailed for $4,850. Of course, I was told that GM had no interest in dirt racing, that it would never work. So we talked a little bit there, and I said, okay. So I kind of went on by my way. And then I called back in October of 13 when we were about to have our first meeting ever for Fast Track. And I called again, talked to the same guy with GM. He said, I told you GM has no interest in this. I said, well, I think you're wrong about it not working, because we're in a real pinch here where, people can't afford 35, 40 grand engines.
Exactly, yeah.
I think it really help racing. And of course, the good thing is if you don't have a 35, 40 grand engine, you're not spending. If you go from an 800 horsepower engine down to a 400 horsepower engine, spinning tires is not what you got to worry about.
Right.
So you don't wear out as many, okay? And then he said, well, I told you GM has no interest in it. I said, fine, I'll build my own. He said, you can't do it. And I said, watch me. So we built our own engine. So we actually didn't start off with Chevrolet Performance.
Gotcha.
Started off with a Fast Track spec motor. And, good thing for us today is we still have that motor sitting on the shelf. We still have the design plans. If anything ever did happen to crate racing, and we see I don't want to set off any warnings there because we see no sign of that whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Chevrolet is totally happy with their crate program.
I was going to say that, Stan. In retrospect, Chevrolet, they saw the light. They realized what they were missing on.
Oh, yeah. We ran our first year, 2004, with the spec engine. Bill Martins called me in 2005, early part of 2005. I was headed up Interstate 77 to do our second region with Rocky East Step in the Mid-Ohio Valley. And we were about to have our first meeting up there, and Bill called me and said, Stan, what do you do? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you got all this racing going on. What? So anyway, GM decided they wanted to get in on the program, and we came to an agreement, and we let the spec motor run through 2005, but we pulled it out in 2006.
Gotcha.
We deleted that program. And I always wanted to be a one-engine deal because we know how it is. I mean, Ford built an engine, a 351, and Wesley, I'm telling you, they sent me one to dyno. I went to the same dyno shop that we dynoed our spec motor on and had dynoed a Chevrolet crate motor on, so we had everything. and went to see Mr. Pete over in Huntsville, Alabama, an actual NASA rocket scientist that did this on the side. So, well, you couldn't find a guy that was any less prejudiced about it, but had more knowledge in how to do it. I mean, it was way back then. He had all the header, exhaust gas, temperature sensors. He had everything, and people now are just beginning to use it stuff. But he was doing it way back then. Anyhow, Ford sent me the engine. I took it over. We dynoed it. Spent a lot of money. Took all day to do it. Mr. Pete was good, but he wasn't cheap. And but he was the best I know on the dyno. And we that motor was within 12 horsepower of what GM has today.
Wow.
So it would have been the perfect. All I had to do was take the carburetor spacer away, and the graphs almost covered each other. But it was a 351. And that motor sat in my basement for 2 years. After I brought it back, and Ford finally called me back, Rod Nack at the time, with Ford Motor Company, said, "We're not going to get in the crate motor business. Get rid of it." Okay. So that's what I did. So, then a few years later, they came out with the 347 that they had been running on asphalt.
That's right.
And it's a stroker engine. I disagree with that concept entirely. So, what I wish could happen, if all things were all fair and equal, Ford would build a motor, Chrysler would build a motor, Toyota build a motor, Chevrolet build a motor, and all of them try to build them equally. But they can't do that because everybody wants to outdo everybody.
Well, that was the question I was going to ask you, Stan, was, man, you took the words right out of my mouth. Would you ever be receptive to the idea of having a multi-engine series like we see in NASCAR, like we see in other forms of motorsports? And do you think that would be not something that would hurt the infrastructure of what is now crate pro late model racing for dirt or asphalt?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't be objective to listening to anything. I'm not going to take a manufacturer's word for it. When I dyno test, if somebody tells me something's a certain way, I dyno it myself. Not one of my employees, but me. And then I can look at you as a competitor, you as a PR guy, you as an announcer, and tell you the truth 100% and know I'm telling you the truth. I don't have to take anybody's word for it.
Right.
And I think that's the relationship we have with our teams and with our racetracks, is they know we don't halfway do things, just like our shock testing. What we told them was 100% the truth. And I'm not going to try to sell them on something. I'm not in the shop business. I'm not in the engine business. I'm not in the tire business.
Right.
But we're going to try to make a better product that lasts longer, more durable, and for basically the same money. And if we can do that, then I think we've helped the sport overall.
Talking with Stan Lester of Fast Track Companies International again. 2004 first race, Winterboro Speedway. Stan, 5 cars. They come crashing, calamity, last lap, turn 4. You come over the radio, or what was a receiver back then, and you said, first guy to cross the line, you're the winner. Talk about where it has grown from 2004 to where you are now in 2017 and all of the successes and failures that have happened along the way with the company.
Well, actually, there weren't even receivers, didn't even exist back when we started.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
I remember the announcer coming to me, he said it was our first race ever. I'd never done a race in my life. Never promoted anything other than a go-kart race or 2 downtown Athens, Georgia, just helping the Chamber of Commerce out. And I had raced all my life. I had really had no idea about this end of the business, other than I knew how I wanted to be treated as a racer. And I knew when I got cheated as a racer. We all do. And I'm not talking about thinking we got cheated. I mean, knowing dang well you did.